Well, let's get going. So I get the job of talking to you all about sort of the boring topic, and I hope that I can help put all that stuff together so that it's not so boring. But I was kind of scrolling through Facebook. I love those memories. They come up, and you see your kids 7 years ago, and when Cole was super cute. It's funny, but one of them that came up was 2 years ago last week, April 17th, 2020. And what I was talking about was how you view is how you do. And you, in other words, you will do what you need if and only if you have the confidence in the message that you're delivering. If you don't have the clarity, you don't have the confidence, you have this lizard brain in you that will keep you from doing it, whether it be unconscious, subconscious. There's all this debate, but I shared that message 2 years ago. I would go back and watch it, but it's called the reticular activating system, that basically dictates how you will feel about what you're doing, how you will feel about what you do. And what will happen is you will live literally in this fight or flight, and there's nothing really in between. And it's been around for a long time, millions of years. But again, this is that fight or flight was that thing that kept us from being eaten, by the saber-toothed tigers. But last I checked, we don't have those anymore. But the reticular activating still does exist. And so what we endeavor to do is arm ourselves with the right information. And if we do that, we can quiet down this fight or flight mechanism, this reticular activating system, and we can actually be the trusted advisor that your community needs, that your business needs, that frankly your family needs, in these times of changing markets. Did you hear that? Are you asking yourself, did you just say the market's changing? I did say that the market is changing. And so if we can go to the next slide here, my goal today is to have two things happen, right? Number one, I want to ensure that you all know exactly and I put on here yesterday, but you know what I mean, like past, what happened this first quarter, what's happening today. And maybe none of us have a crystal ball, but I think we can probably prognosticate enough from the experience that we have, the wisdom that we have, the others. I'm looking at this list. There's some tremendous experience on this call today. There's some tremendous wisdom in our organization. I'm certainly trying to surround myself every single day with people that have been in the business and seen different things happen that I could never possibly know, so that we can create some understanding of what is likely to happen in the future from your customers' standpoint, so that you can be that trusted advisor and that guide. And then number two, I want to make sure that you leave here knowing what's happening, and likely to happen in the industry, so that your business, you can have a plan and an action according to what's likely to happen. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start out with a little quote from Mr. Klieger. He shared this with the group the other day. And of course, I'm giving Jimmy full credit, although I'm sure somebody else said it. But it says, "A bird sitting on a limb in a tree does not fear the branch breaking, for they have complete confidence in their own wings." I'm going to talk about some stuff that on the surface is a little bit scary, and frankly, let's face it. If it bleeds, it leads. We've talked about that before. I don't care what news channels you're watching: MSNBC, Fox News, CBS, KCM. It doesn't really matter. The data is the data is the data. A lot of it appears to be grim, but if you know what's going on and you have a plan, it's not grim at all, right? Markets do, well, hopefully they do two things. Really, they do three. They either go up, they go down. Unfortunately, sometimes they stay flat. And we have all done very well in both. And frankly, this organization was built when things were going down. So let's dig in. we're going to focus on the past. This slide simply tells you, based on the number of closed sides, what's going on. Nationally, the number of sides closed is down 10%. In your local markets, it's down 18%. Now that's a company stat, right? That's so you're one could be down 20 and one could be down 16. So you need to know your local, but this is local meaning our company. And something important to keep in mind is that the units sold is down during a time where interest rates were still around 3%. And you might be saying, well, wait, interest rates are at 3%. Well, these are closed numbers in that first quarter. And remember, interest rates really began to climb, say, in March, after the Fed raised its basis, right? And so, we haven't seen those closings yet, or we're just now starting to. So these don't reflect the potential impact of the growing interest rates. But there's your numbers from the past. Next one, please. All right, closed volume. Hey, wait a minute. How are we down 18%, but our volume is up 2%? Well, it's a figment of the average sales price. So two things happening. Number one, the upper end market continues to be fairly robust. We're going to talk a little bit about why that is as a hedge against inflation, investor business. But the average, and of course we have appreciation. So we get two different factors that are pushing the closed volume up, which is great. Now it does give us a bit of an illusion is that the market is still really strong and it's going gangbusters. Again, no reason to be alarmed yet, but those are the numbers. And then going to the next, we're going to talk about listings taken. Now, this one is a little bit more interesting. If you look at it nationally, look at that number, you guys. Nationally, 24.3% down. Locally, in our markets, 50+% down. Those are big reductions in the number of listings coming to the market. This is a KCM slide where we're making a comparison of the active listings versus the taken listings. We'll kind of get into that here a little bit. But if you look back, this is sort of January over January, 571 listings taken last year, 409 this year, 498 last year, in February, 376. These are significant reductions. The new construction world is having an impact on that. What we hear is that, hey, we're still below the 50-year average, and that is all really true. But we're really close to the 50-year trend line. I did not include that slide, but there's a good one in KCM if you're looking for it. But the expectation is that this year we're going to go over that 50-year trend line. But listen, it's and Olin is a great one. He sounds this, beats this drum often, and he's right. The new construction it's not enough, right? It's not enough to get us over the hump, so to speak. But the trend line on this is very interesting. All right, next. So you can see, give you some perspective. So here we are, it's a 22nd, 4/22/22. And this dates back to basically January 1st, right? You're looking at December 30th is 3.11. And, that's a pretty short period of time. And I can't remember the exact date that the Fed hiked their rates, but 4.67% as of the end of the first quarter, right? So what I'm saying is that 4.67% deals happening on going under contract on 3/31 haven't really closed yet, right? They're going to be closing here in the next week. So we really don't know what impact it's had. We can look at the impact of climbing rates by looking at the pending report. Certainly that's going to help, and we'll look at that here in just a second. The other piece of this that I thought was really interesting is that what you're hearing on all of the news channels is that, hey, and like, if you look at the graphs, and I don't think I have the KCM, but if you go to KCM and you look at the graph, they're using in smaller letters, not too fine print, but smaller letters. It's talking about this graph is based on 1% increase in interest rates. Well, I bought a house in January. My rate was 2.5%. Okay. So if my rate was 2.5%, not 3.11, and we're at 4 point close to 7 as of the end of March, that is in less than 90 days, a greater than 2% increase. I'm going to show you here in just a minute what today the rate is. All right, so next slide is home values. Home values continue to climb. Look at that graph. From the 1970s, we had that little blip in the Great Recession, but otherwise, look at that. That's crazy. What a cool graph that is. Just year over year, though, 15 to 19%. This growth, this appreciation, in my opinion, has created a bit of an illusion that the market is still growing overall. Again, I think you have to look at the sides because I'm not sure that the appreciation, given inflation and interest rates, are going to be able to bring us through. But we'll talk about that in a second. So, hey, listen. By the way, you all, if there are questions, I hope there are questions. I'm trying to give you this really boring stuff, and I'm just going to be throwing a ton of data at you. I would really, really encourage you to take notes. If you need to go back and look at this, go back and watch it. Obviously, you can see some of the sources of these slides. I got this from Keeping Current Matters. I got this from different news organizations, Yahoo, Google, you name it. But this really is critical to your ability to thrive in a changing market. So please. And then, of course, now's the time to ask questions. You all know my cell number too. You're always welcome to call or text. All right, so the next slide is really talking about the buyer profile. And this is super interesting to me. And we're going to talk more about what this means in the future. But from a past perspective, first-time home buyers accounted for 30% of the sales. First-time home buyers. The economists say that 40% is required for a robust housing market. So it's down. If we say, hey, it was 40% and it's down 25% on the, I call them normal buyers. They call them first-time home buyers. These are just, the regular Joes, you and me kind of thing. Investors made up 28% of the transactions in March is the sampling size. And that's the most since July of 2014. The most since July of 2014. And to give you some context, historically, that number's around 15%. So it's nearly double. We saw an increase, obviously, through like 2020 and 2021. I think if I remember the number correctly, in January of last year, the number was 23%. But it is fascinating that the buyer profile is changing. All right, next slide, please. All right, so what's happening today then? All right, that's what happened in the first quarter. What are we looking at today? Well, the next slide tells you about pending sales. Pending sales. And so there's a lot of information here. I'm going to sort of bring your attention to the bottom left. And you can see the red numbers are all of the areas of the country that we are seeing a decline in pending sales. So it's all of them. What does that mean? Well, that's nationally. Our local markets are no different. And, there's likely a variety of reasons, of course. And, it's interesting to listen to the news and hear all about those different opinions. But the interest rates are probably the biggest one. And I'll talk a little bit about what the future holds in that. But we do need to acknowledge the fact that something has changed. Pending sides are down. Appreciation continues to grow. And there will be an impact with inflation. There will be an impact with, less government money in the marketplace. We call it free money, and we will likely, see this continue. So again, present active inventory levels. This slide shows a near record. You can change slides, please. A near record is what it calls it. I can't see on that, and that goes back to what appears to me to be like 1980. I can't see a time where it was lower. So I don't know what the near record is, but that is shocking when you look at all of those years, because there's some big, robust markets and some booms in the middle there, and yet inventory levels don't appear to have been lower. And boy, we are all feeling that right now. And what's different about this year, we talked about this before, but what's different about this year as compared to last year. Yeah, last year we were saying we were in an inventory crisis. Really, we weren't. We were in a buyer crisis. Truthfully, the number of listings coming on the market last year in January, February, March were really similar to previous years. What was different was we had so many buyers, and the buyers were just gobbling up the inventory. So yes, active inventory was low, but we still had a record 6.3, 6.4 million homes sold. And as we say, you can't sell what you don't have. And so obviously we had a lot of them, but that also holds true for us today. You can't sell what you don't have. So there's going to be some additional downward pressure unless we can solve the inventory issue, because new listings taken are down, as I pointed out in the past slide, 24.3% nationally and up to 50% or more locally. Next slide, please. All right, let's talk about interest rates for a second. This is an interesting slide. Again, no fear tactics here, but today, remember that KCM slide showed 4.67% at the end of March. Today, the rates are at 5.2%. You can see on this graph, let's see, here we go. The red or orange is the number of applications. Look at that falling off. Right? Down significantly. The refinances, which are the sort of the blue, look at those. As compared to August of last year, compared to now, that is way, 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 way down. And then, of course, yeah, we talked about purchases are down as well. Next slide. This is an interesting slide to me, and I think there's some different opinions on this. And I've heard all kinds of people talking about, oh, hey, showings are up, buyer demand is high. All right. Yes, there are still buyers in the marketplace. I have just a slightly different take on this. It appears to me, based on and you all know better than I, but I mean, many of you that I am having conversations with are telling me that deals are just a little bit harder to put together. And so buyers are looking at more properties, and maybe they're not feeling as much pressure. They're still feeling pressure. Don't get me wrong. We're still seeing multiple offers. The closing report from yesterday showed 102% of list price. I mean, it's still going, right? But this is more of an indicator of the future, that people are looking at more properties, therefore the showings are up. So what does this all mean for the future? Let's move up 2 slides, please. Full disclaimer, right? I mean, we're all real estate agents, so we always give advice, but only following. I am not an attorney, and if you need an attorney, you should seek the counsel of an attorney. This is only my opinion. So here we go. Certainly, I have been wrong. Hopefully, you all feel like I take my lumps when I'm wrong. And when it comes to sort of what's going on in the market and blending the popularized media with the National Association of Realtors and KCM, and everybody's got a horse in the race. Hopefully, I've been right more than I have been wrong. But this is prognostication, and there's so many different things that go into it. But I would tell you this, that 5.2% interest rates this week, it rose, and it rose so quickly. And the the trigger for that was a 25 point or basis point Fed hike. 25 points created, again, I said at the beginning of January, my rate was 2.5%. Today it's 5.2%. That's a double. That's a double. And what we're being told is to expect a 50 basis point hike next month. So listen, I said it earlier, the closed size numbers, they don't reflect the increased rates because they really went up most pronounced in March. So we're only just now seeing them. And the pending sides are the ones that we need to look at, and they're all down. And they are continuing to go down, and it's expected that they will continue to decline year over year. Again, no fear, just giving you the data. Let's talk inventory. Next slide. Listen, inventory is still low, but for the first time, we've got more listings than actives. Okay, that was the slide that KCM had. That's interesting. First time in 6 months, sorry. That's interesting. I'm not sure necessarily what that means, but the new construction numbers are still below from last year, below the 50-year trend line. But again, the expectation is that that's going to go above the trend line. Not enough to make a huge difference, but we're moving in the right direction, which is exciting. If the number of pendings is going down, then the number of closings is dropping. And so, it is conceivable that we could see a slight increase in the number of listings and the number of actives as a result. But again, I just don't think it's going to be enough to fundamentally change the market. I think it's going to stay a seller's market as a result. But anyway, next slide is appreciation. This one's interesting. And again, we saw that number. It's just crazy to watch that go up and up and up and up. It's slowing though. And I think everybody is saying it's going to slow. I don't know if you remember the slides from, I think it probably was January. All of the quote unquote experts were saying we have a deceleration of appreciation, and that deceleration is going to be, in the sort of the single digits. I think that's still probably where we're at. You still have this incredible pressure of supply and demand, and I just can't imagine that you're going to have enough inventory that's going to come on the market that's going to stop the appreciation. Like I said, we still have multiple offers, and yet we're over 5% in our interest rates, which in and of itself actually says a lot. And you probably hear me say this 4 or 5 times in the rest of this. The interest rates are still incredibly low, right? Yeah, 2.5% to 5.2%. It's like, oh my gosh. But I can remember in the 90s, I think I paid 8 or 9%. And I thought I got a steal. So as sides decline along with the appreciation, I think this is a big one, right? We are likely to see red numbers on the total sales volume. Right? Remember, I showed we had this reduction nationally in the number of sides, but we had an increase in the sales volume. Well, I think that's going to change. I think we're going to continue, obviously, to see a reduction, red numbers, and the number of sides closed, but I don't think the appreciation is going to keep up enough to keep the total sales volume in the black number. So there you go. Future, buyer of the future. Next slide. So we saw that the buyer profile has changed, and we have fewer of the normal buyers and more of the investors. This is going to be an interesting conversation market by market. The buyer profile is going to begin to look, they're going to be just a little bit more sophisticated, I think. I'm not talking about the have to's, right? We have people who have to buy, they're moving, job changes, whatever, right? And I'm not talking about the have to's, but you've got the investor types who, typically speaking, real estate has done really well in inflationary times. Obviously, we are in inflationary times, and so you're going to have people that are going to be investing to hedge against the inflation, hence the increase in investor traffic. And we're going to have fewer normal buyers, just frankly, because they're being priced out of the market, right? But the appreciation is pricing them out of the market, the interest rates are likely pricing them out of the market. And, let's not forget the inflation, it's costing them more to live. And so they've just got less money to throw at a mortgage payment. So that's going to have an impact as well. So close sides nationally, nationally, we're close side. Next slide, please. We were down 10%, right? I would look for that to climb in the wrong direction, right? So it down 10% on sides. I would say that nationally you're going to see maybe a reduction in the 15% range. I think locally you're 18% reduction in the number of closed sides. I would look for that to continue to move that downward pressure. Something just happened there to your screen, FYI. You're going to see a downward pressure from 18. You're going to probably go to 22 to 25% reduction in the number of sides. That is going to continue to put pressure on the total close sales volume, which is the next slide. Right now, we have a black number, which is plus 2%. I would expect that to drop to -7 to -10%. So, next slide, please. Are you a pretzel yet? It was a lot of information. It was a ton of data. So here's the recap. Prices, they're up. Yep. Rates are up. Buyers are down. Investors are up. New listings are down. Showings are up. Pendings are down. What in the world are you supposed to do with this? What is the information? And it's the tale. It's really two different tales, right? I mean, we've got a buyer, and we have a seller in these transactions, and I'm going to talk about you here in a second, but I'm going to stay focused with the consumer. So if you are a buyer, I think what we probably should be telling them, this is what I would be telling them. How's that? It's still going to be hard, right? There are less options. Yep, there are fewer listings, although it seems to be getting better. It's becoming more expensive. I mean, inflation and interest rates, appreciation, like all three of those things are sort of working in conjunction. And all the competition is fierce. I mean, there's still multiple offers, but now is still a really good time to buy. If you're looking from a historical standpoint, again, they're incredibly low rates. And if you're looking for a hedge against inflation, real estate has done really, really well through every inflationary period. So that's a really good reason. And all of the so-called experts are calling for continued appreciation, albeit it'll be significantly slower. But based on that data, based on those points, it's pretty good. So that would be what I would be telling buyers. If you're a seller, it also is still a great time to sell. The demand remains extremely high. The competition is fewer, although it is growing slightly, but again, you're still talking about such small numbers. Depreciation, it's slowing, which may indicate a potential top of the market. So if I'm a seller trying to time the market, now's a great time to time that market. So let's move along 2 slides, please. All right. So any questions about the consumer side of this? My chats. They just need to be looking for or looking at the buyer profile they're servicing. Yeah, first time. Yep. What is the buyer profile? Yep, exactly. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Yeah, JK, a little bit, right? Sort of. I think it's very different. I think there was some other pressure that changed things. We'll talk a little bit about what stagflation could potentially do. I think this seems a little bit more like like the 80s. I was around the 80s, and I think most of you know that my family was in land development and construction, so I got to sort of see from afar. I was just a kid, but I got to see from afar what that felt like. Some of the folks on this call were in the business and know exactly what that was like when you had, high teens in interest rates and true stagflation. So, all right, good. No more questions. All right. So let's do this. What does this all mean to your business, right? We talked about the consumer. We talked about the messaging for the buyer, the seller. You got to be really, really smart, folks. Like, this is not the time to play small ball. You have got to be the smartest person in the room, period, end of story. And what I wrote down on here was predictive, predictive, predictive. So what does this all mean? There is a threat, and I'll just call it like it is. But if you handle it correctly, it will be an opportunity for you. You need to be predictive in this marketplace. You need to be predictive. Predictive is relating to or having the effect of predicting an event or result. Now, that makes it sound like you are at the mercy of something. I don't think you're at the mercy of something. I think you are looking to the future, and you are doing as Wayne Gretzky did to become a Hall of Fame #1 dude. And when he was asked, what makes you special? He just simply said, I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it is. So predictive, that's what that means to me. It's not reactive. It's not responsive. It's not proactive. It's predictive. And you're going to need to run a really smart business with really smart leverage that's focused on being the most knowledgeable broker, so you can be the best person to your client. So let's talk details on that. And let's start with what the buyer of the future is likely to be. We can probably just stop sharing here at this point. I think I'm just going to kind of chat. You guys don't need to just be looking at a blank screen, but the buyer profile, as I see it, they're going to be more investor types. That's actually pretty good news for the resort markets, because we're talking about second, third homeowners, where they're taking money out of the one market and they're putting it into the real estate market as a hedge against inflation. And it's good news for the traditional market, because you're talking about the true investor types that are looking for a return, right? And Kelly, if you're on the call, that's good news for you. We're talking about that 17 flex that you've got. I would say this: the free or low interest money is probably gone, or if it's not gone completely, it's going away. That's not going to impact the folks that need to buy, so they're still going to be in the market. But listen, I had a conversation with a friend. I use the term, friend in quotes, who bought a home. He owns a large company with a ton of employees, and if you remember back in 2020, the government gave us a bunch of money. Gave us, meaning all of the business community, was handing out money based on the employees, not agents, employees. So those companies who had a ton of employees got like millions and millions of dollars. It was crazy. And to keep everybody on the payroll. Well, that was a great, in theory, it was a great hedge against what we thought was happening in the economy. But as we learned, a month later, all of a sudden the market turned on and everything was crazy good. And so many of these operators of manufacturing and payroll companies, and we'll call them normal businesses, had all of this, we'll call them slush funds. And I was talking to this person who's got a large manufacturing business, and he took the money. I remember the government forgave it, right? It wasn't a loan. The government forgave it, and he used it to go buy homes. He literally used our tax money to go buy homes. But that money's gone, right? And that obviously contributed to fueling the real estate market if that was going on. So there are going to be fewer normal buyers, if we were to prognosticate, as they're being priced out by rates, appreciation, and inflation. And so you're going to need to strategize to find those buyers that are going to be in the marketplace. And what about the sellers? Well, the seller profiles also change. The need to sell are going to be there. Those are the ones that they've got a life change. They're moving, new job, divorce, kids coming in the house, leaving the house. Yeah, I know. Divorces, inflation challenges. It's interesting to me as we look at these things. When we look at them as singularity in a silo, we sometimes forget that they have long, really wide consequences. As inflation goes up, it costs us more to live. Prices go up. If I own a business, it can impact negatively my business, and as a result, can negatively impact my ability to stay in business, which could negatively impact my ability to make my house payment. So regardless of how low my interest rates are, how small my payment may be, I may not be able to afford it, right? So there's all kinds of inflationary pressures that we're seeing. What I would say is that you've got to strategize around where to find those sellers, right? So social media, network, pay attention to what's going on. If you see a going out of business sale or liquidation sale on a business, that could be an indicator that that business owner is struggling. And so connecting with them, finding out what you can do to help them. Life changes. Social media, I love that, right? Like somebody's pregnant, somebody just had a baby, somebody did this, that, and the other. Now's still a good time. And if the interest rates are going to continue to climb, and now I've got an extra kid, and I only have a 3-bedroom, and I got 3 kids now. Now I may need another or 2-bedroom. I may need another bedroom. And if I'm going to buy a property based on a payment, I'd rather buy a property on a payment at 5.2% interest than 7.5% interest. And let's be honest, based on what the velocity of the increase was on a 25 basis Fed hike was, if they're going to increase it by 50 basis points next month, it is not inconceivable that number is in the sevens. All right, let's talk about deal flow for just 1 second, and what we expect for the future. This is really more of a personal, I think, as I'm going to take this. This is about your business and war chest, right? So what type of deal flow are we expecting for the future? I think you need to make sure that you are prepared so that if you make the right decisions for your personal business, your war chest, your savings, so that you can make sure that you are in the right position to take advantage of the opportunities that always come with a changing market. Okay. Warren Buffett famously said in his book, Snowball, when people are greedy, be fearful. When people are fearful, be greedy. And we're starting to see a little bit of that fear. And my goal today is not to scare you, but also to put you in a place where you can go, hey, I know what's happened. I know what's happening. And I think I know what's going to happen. And I am going to position myself in the right place to be the one that gets to be greedy, right? That's where you make that's where you bring your acorns. So saving your acorns is going to be a really big piece to this. Flow sides, I expect sides to continue to slow. Up to 25% in your market. Again, do not panic with that. When the business changes, what happens is many of the agents, and I'm just going to call them the bad agents, and no offense intended. I'm just saying there are agents. We all know who they are that go about and shake hands and take listings and put them in the MLS and move on. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, or those are the ones I'm talking about. Those of you who are operating true businesses, you have lead sources, you have structure, you have process. You're the one that's going to reap the benefits of this. So when that business changes, many of those agents go away, but it does take some time for that to happen. Remember, they hang on for a period of time going, I wonder what's going on. You are getting an inside future look of what's happening. So you're just going to know a lot sooner than they are. So you need to make sure that you're getting your unfair share, is what I would say, of the deals, by sticking to the basics of your business. Right? it is going to continue to be exceptionally competitive out there. So you need to be very, very good at sticking to your schedule, sticking to your prospecting, sticking to your lead generation sources, understanding your tracking, your measuring. Again, back to the basics. Let's talk about closed volume for a second. I would expect volume to decline with the slowdown of appreciation and with the slowdown of sides. I have no idea by how much. I mean, I put a number out there, but I really don't know. I think I said it might be as much as 18%. We don't know what it's going to be, but I do know it will be. How about that? Like the sides, you're going to need to be very, very predictive on what segments of the market are going to be the best and what's happening each and every day to the values. Basics 101, hot sheets every single day. Ask yourself better questions when you're looking at those hot sheets. Don't just go through going, all right, I'm just trying to find a property for a buyer. No. I mean, did the property go for over list price? Are you having conversations with those agents about how many offers they got? Are you seeing a reduction in the number of offers you're getting on listing? Are there any price reductions? Are deals falling apart? These are all really, really good questions to be asking. You all are blessed to be in an organization that's got a lot of different viewpoints because you are in a bunch of different markets. Reach out to your buddy that's in a different market and ask him or her, what's going on in that market. Share some knowledge, some wisdom. Don't inundate Olin, but he's always my go-to. Expect inventory to climb. Again, still really low, still really competitive, but you're going to see it climb. I think there just are fewer buyers. There is more new construction coming to the market. I think it's going to tick over that 50-year trend line finally for the first time in, I think it was 14 or 15 years, which is pretty impressive. Potential sellers are going to really, 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 really want to know what you're going to do for them, how you're going to do it. I think communication is going to be absolutely paramount. I had a conversation with Keenan the Kid Coit, yesterday, where we're talking about, like the utilization of tech stack for communication. I would 1000% lean into your tech stack. Make sure that your clients are in the CRM. Make sure that they have portals. Make sure that you are utilizing the action plans around your transactions, around your listing marketing, so that they can see exactly what's going on, that they don't have to reach out to you for communication. But more and more, people have for years now, think about it, are just used to, oh, well, yeah, you're so good, you can just simply throw it on the MLS and it sells. Yeah, that's changing, likely to continue to change. You're going to be in very, very competitive situations. The other piece that I would say is make sure that you have your scripts done. Like every single day, you are working on your why you need to list with me script. Make sure that your presentations are dialed and that you can give them, frontwards, backwards, upside down. You're going to need all of the talking points, and you know what they are, right? Price premium. Does Coldwell Banker have a price premium? I think it was 13% compared to the average real estate agent. Coldwell Banker agents sell things on average for 13% more. So literally the sign in your yard has a 13% difference. That might be a good one. Anyway, let's talk about interest rates. I would expect them to climb. We talked about this just a minute ago, so I'm going to restate it. I think I warned you. 25 basis points created a 2 to 2.5% increase in the interest rate, which was a double, 100% increase. Next month, we're told 50%. Don't be surprised. You've got to be the knowledge broker here, folks. If the rates climb at the current pace, it is not inconceivable that we're talking about 7+%. This is going to impact buyers, and probably in a pretty significant way. Ultimately, when inventory levels grow, it would also impact sellers, but it takes time for us to get there. So I don't see that happening right this second. We've got to remember, continually remind ourselves that 7% is still low. We're just sort of comparing it to something that was truly unimaginable for anybody who's been in the business for any period of time. 2-3% interest rates just seems like that's silly. Appreciation, I would expect it to climb. I would expect it to climb at a much slower pace, like 2, 3, 4, 5% kind of thing. But even at 5 or 6%, you're talking about that was what the number was like considered as normal. I think it was 6 or 7%. Every 6 or 7 years, you've doubled. If you think about the compound effect, right? 6 or 7%. Every 6 or 7 years, you've doubled the value of the property. So that seems sustainable, and we're just going to be getting back to those numbers. Right? Unfortunately for us, that that appreciation that we saw, that 13% in March, that was enough to offset the decline in the number of sides, and so our sales volume was still flatter or slightly growing, which sort of makes up for the decline in numbers. If the sales appreciation goes down, now we're talking about our sales volume being lower, and that means you're going to make less money. There's less commissions in the market. And again, you're going to need to be paying attention to this each and every day. The hot sheet is your friend every single morning. I don't think you go talk to, no offense, any of the old dogs, and they will tell you to this day, they still look at the hot sheet every single day. It's the lifeblood of their business. All right, so bottom line, if you do the right things and you do them today, do not wait, do not procrastinate, you've got to be predictive, you will be the one standing. You will be the one at the end of the day with the business that does not decline, but it will actually climb. Think about that for a minute. Our businesses do best in a changing market. Where we struggle is when we have stagnation. And I told you before that we're seeing a decline. I fear that for a period of time that we're going to have stagnation, which means there will be fewer buyers and fewer sellers in the market, which just means fewer transactions because the market is fairly flat. And that is going to make things far more competitive. It's also going to wash out anybody who does not have a true business, anybody who is doing this as a hobby. They think it's really simple and easy. And that is a good thing for those of you who are running great businesses. If, by the way, you lump yourself in that hobbyist category, you got to make a decision. This may not be the business for you, or maybe it is the business for you, and it's just time to show up to coaching. It's time to ask a pro, ask a veteran, get into training, do what you need to do each and every day, and take this really, really seriously, because the competition, while the competitiveness is about to climb, if that's even possible, the competition is about to get washed out. There is a saying that says, when the tide goes out, we find out who's wearing pants. We are about to find out. So the best markets to grow a long-term, really strong, viable business are markets that are changing. This is a changing market. Make sure you're prepared, that you have a plan, you're working hard, and that you are learning each and every day what is going on so that you can deliver to your clients and be the absolute best knowledge broker and stay distinctive as an agent, right? All right, that's what I have got for you. Let's go back here. Need versus capacity is already adversely affecting the Sun Valley market at the entry level. Yes, that's that first time, what I call the normal buyers, right? What's interesting, I was talking to Jim Jennings and Telluride, his numbers are still in line with last year, which is fantastic. And for any of you that have been in the business for a long time, he's a great dude to talk to, because he is one of those folks that said, hey, listen, I know that the market, the way it's changed, has created some opportunity for the young guns, the newbies to the market, because technology is playing such a role. And you can't just rely on past client sphere of influence if that's been your business strategy of the past. And he adopted some of the new age strategies, and he's crushing it. Like, he's getting leads from Google My Business and from social ad engine and from his email marketing. It's pretty shocking. And of course, he owns the past client sphere of influence. Anybody that's in that market has known him because he's been there forever. So, where do you see the population migration from to? Well, that's an interesting one, right? So, and this is a good question for our commercial folks because they are watching this very, very closely because it's a huge impact not only on office but also retail. So we had all those people who left the concrete jungles, right? And they moved to Sun Valley and they moved to Bozeman and moved to all the resort markets. And they said, okay, well, we're going to raise our families here. And we saw the long lines and that had a huge impact positively on retail, for example, and the resort markets they were moving to. It had a negative impact on the retail in the markets they were moving from, right? All of a sudden you had all these vacancies. Well, will that continue? Will they stay or will they go now? There was a song. I don't know. God, I wish I knew. I will say this, that I am seeing more people traveling for work. I certainly am traveling more for work. That may grind on some folks. That may be the impetus of people to say, hey, listen, you know what, maybe living here isn't going to work, traveling so much, it's a hard airport to travel from, et cetera. And maybe they'll do some kind of a hybrid and get back to the primary markets. I saw an article in I think it was the Washington Post, that was talking about New York and how people were flooding back into New York and all of this stuff was happening. I have a sister who lives in New York City, and she said that it's absolutely not true. The uber high end is selling, but a lot of that is sort of foreign money, and a lot of Russian money. Interestingly enough, because for obvious reasons, they're worried about their money being in Russia. So I don't know. The migration will be very interesting. When you talk about these traditional markets, they're more have-tos. I know that Bozeman is a bit of a different beast, and I think Grand Junction is a little bit of a different beast, and that people are coming over the hill, and you've got a lot of the locals, the natives that are in the resort markets that are really, really high priced, that they like to move to Grand Junction because it's got great lifestyle and it's affordable, and they can't necessarily afford to retire from their job in Vail and live in Vail. Then you got people coming over the hill from Denver who are just saying, hey, listen, the congestion and the blah 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 is just not for me anymore. So they're doing that. Yeah. Or then you've got the Adam Greenbergs of the world, right? And he's a great microcosm. It's funny, Adam. I've got a friend of mine in Steamboat who's doing exactly the same thing. But I'll use this friend in Steamboat. So he's lived there for a long time. Let's call it 20 years. Right? And he has his last kid has just gone off to school, and he sold his house, top of the market, right? Sold his house, bought an RV, loaded up the family, and is driving around. Right? And he's going to spend the next year traveling. Really interesting. And I think we're going to see more of that, frankly. We're going to see more of it. All right, come on. That can't be all of the questions. I had to confuse some people, didn't I? I'm waiting. Jen Colson, Jen Peterson. I'm going to pick on you guys. A couple more minutes here. Classification on basis point. All right. So I am not an economist, Kenzie. So take this with a grain of salt. But there is a Fed rate. This is the rate at which they are lending money to institutions. Okay. it does have an impact on what institutions then believe that they need to make. So a basis point would be like 0.25. If I were to look at it an interest rate, if I'm at 5%, and that would be going up to 5.25. But you can't get too caught up on that, because that's what it's really. It's sort of a risk reward for lending institutions. So a 0.25 increase doesn't equate to a 0.25 increase to you and I and our clients, and hence 2.5% to 5.2%. Y'all, that is crazy. 2.7% increase on 2.5%. Whoa. Good to see you, brother. All right. Can you increase by, okay, yeah. Is it predicted to go up another 25 or 50 additional? Right. So back, I think it was in February that we saw the 0.25 or the 25 basis point Fed rate hike. I think that was in February. And that is why we saw that increase. I think we were all surprised at how quickly it increased. I think, well, I'll speak for myself. That shocked me. I didn't think it was going to go up that quickly. You knew it was going to go up, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to slow the inflation rate. The 50 basis points is expected to happen next month. And if 25 brought us 2.5, I don't know what 50 does, but hopefully it's not a complete, equal relationship. Yes. So 25 is what we saw increase. That's the first time in months and months and months, years, whatever, that we've seen any kind of a Fed rate hike. And yes, we're expecting another 50 basis points happening we're in April, so in May. Yeah, I didn't even see him back there. My handsome little boy. All right, y'all. I hope this helped. Listen, again, this was not a scare tactic. I want you to understand, for every challenge is an opportunity. For every closed door, another one opens. God promises us that it is a foregone done deal. I just want to make sure that you have your eyes open and that you are taking the steps necessary to make sure that you are the one having the highest impact and helping other people through it. The news organizations out there, they don't like talking about, oh, hey, here's what's happening and here's what's likely to happen. They want to talk about, oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end. It's not coming to an end, right? But you are going to have to be prepared, and you are going to need to make sure that you have got your ducks in a row. So go get your ducks in a row, and let's do right by our communities, by our business, by our families, and be distinctive.